Good morning. Welcome to the regular session of the Board of Supervisors meeting for September 30th. Roll call, please.
Grant.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Kurtenbach.
Here.
Leyland.
Here.
Hall.
Here. Please join in the moment of silence and reflect on this morning's actions. Please stand if you're able to join for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1, agenda received is proposed as amended. So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2, public comment. This is for anyone to speak on an issue that is not on this morning's agenda, either in the room or online. Seeing none, we'll move to item 3, presentation to Allen Child Protective Services.
Hi, good morning. I am Kim French from the Allen Foundation. I have Katie Srue with me. She's the Allen Child Protection Center Director. We're here to talk about a capital campaign that the Child Protection Center has going on. So I just want to pass these out quick. Thank you. Currently, the Child Protection Center is in Allen Hospital proper. We are wanting to move it over to a separate building outside of Allen College. We're in a $1.5 million campaign, and we're trying to fundraise for that by the end of this year. We're at 1.1 currently. So I'm here to ask the Blackhawk County if they would consider giving to this campaign. We do have a short 5-minute campaign video for you all to watch, and then Katie and I are glad to take some questions after that. I think most of you have heard the Child Protection Center, know what it's all about, are involved with Katie and her staff quite regularly. So if you want to run that video.
The kids that are served here have really experienced the unthinkable.
It's a safe place for kids to come and talk about what's happened to them. It stops future abuse from happening for any specific child who comes into the center.
The Allen Child Protection Center in Waterloo is a place of safety, a place of hope, and a place to start recovery for children and dependent adults who are suspected victims of abuse or witnesses to crime. Established in 2010, the Allen Child Protection Center serves 27 Iowa counties. Other services include mental health support, the Family Resiliency Program, which serves drug-endangered children, and child abuse prevention programs.
Sometimes abuse can be very shameful. They can feel like they were a cause of it. We can address that with them accessing services from this center. We can make sure they know moving forward they were not the cause of the abuse.
It's a neutral environment. They have trained forensic interviewers. They ask non-leading questions. It's just a safe environment for the kids to come and share the trauma they've experienced.
In 2024, 650 patients were seen at the center, most of them kids between 5 and 12 years old.
You know, they've had a lot of trauma in their life, or there's been some sort of abuse allegation that has been made. And I really think the center staff are the ones that help with that first step of healing.
Services are free to patients and families. In fact, kids can take home a toy, but they do leave 2 important items behind: information about what's happened to them and a button.
Every time a patient's seen, they get to place a button in this big jar to show that they're not alone. I love that representation of I'm not alone. Here is 50, 75, 150 other buttons that represent other people that have been in the same situation as me.
As the center's services have expanded, it's seeing more patients and families than ever before. While funding formulas from the state have stayed the same for several years, there are privacy and security issues which must be addressed. Narrow hallways and limited rooms, staff working too close together in a shared space or in offices outside the center's walls, and a crowded waiting room.
When families come to access services, they might feel confined with a limited space to wait for their interviews or to meet with professionals. That can produce re-traumatization of both the child they brought in and themselves.
Help the center match the growing needs of Northeast Iowa. Join Creating Safe Spaces, Changing Lives in support of moving the center to a new location at the Allen College campus. This $1.5 million capital campaign will allow the center to renovate Alumni Hall to better serve clients and families. The new location will create more privacy and security, better accessibility, a less intimidating space for kids to enter, and additional interview and observation rooms.
One of the things we want to avoid is anybody waiting to get their needs met. We also want to stop those cycles of abuse, not only for that individual, youth that we're serving, but also ongoing maybe patterns that have been happening that can be interrupted long term.
Donating to this campaign is helping that child tell their story and giving them that first step towards healing after a traumatic event.
With your help, the Allen Child Protection Center will deliver more impact to safeguarding children.
The Allen Child Protection Center is extremely vital for law enforcement. Their first step of walking in here helps break the cycle of abuse. The education that they receive here, the resources, just these professionals here leave an impact on these kids, and it leads to a safer community with that cycle broken.
The center's used a lot, which is kind of that catch-22. You don't want the center to be used because that means abuse is happening, but then you want the center to be used because that means we're reporting abuse is happening, and that's one step closer to ending child abuse.
And abuse can be shrouded with shame and secrecy, and definitely feelings by both perpetrator and victim of being out of control. And this space provides them reassurance that, that they are worthy of support, that their assessments will be comprehensive, and that recovery can start moving forward.
Support the Allen Child Protection Center and make our state and community stronger by creating safe spaces and changing lives.
So that was our campaign video. I did want to also point out that Blackhawk County, of the sheets I gave you like a one-sheeter info statistical page. Of the 644, I think that technically says that was served in 2024, 28% of those came from Blackhawk County. Waterloo Police is their #1 referral source to the Child Protection Center. Another important point to point out is that the children and families who come to the center are never charged for the services they receive. So we totally raise donations, get grants for the Child Protection Center. No family is charged for the services that they receive there. It's kind of like an all-inclusive one-stop shop for that child to tell their story, so that they don't have to go to the doctor, to the police, to HHS separately. Katie, do you want to come up and if any questions, does anybody have any questions for us? Katie's really the Child Protection Center expert here, but.
Where's the new proposed location?
Yep, it's right across from Allen College. It's on Heath Street, just like a block over from the hospital where it currently is.
Was that or is that a nursing home rehab facility? I know I've been out there.
No, Northcrest is still there.
Okay.
Northcrest is still there, so it's.
It used to be a Cedar Valley Kids daycare, and then before that, I think it was like a residential property that they would use. It's been recycled many times over the years, and so we're looking to recycle it again so that we can make it our own and meet the needs of the Child Protection Center. But one of the things our staff is super excited about, I don't know if you guys noticed on the rendering, there's windows in there. We haven't had windows in like forever. So it's just gonna be a much nicer space, more cottagey space, more comfortable space, not only for our team, but most importantly for our patients and their families. It's not gonna be intimidating. Parking will be really easy, especially for our law enforcement and HHS partners that travel sometimes 2 hours to the center. It'll be a private location where they don't have to navigate, the hospital and things like that. And we'll have multiple entrances, so if kids get really scared about seeing police or something, we can have them enter through a back entrance. And so a lot of different opportunities for privacy and safety, both physically and psychologically for our patients.
Where in the hospital is?
Yeah, right now we're like 2 entrances away from the emergency department, so right next to the heart center.
Right, and right now their waiting room is super tiny. I was in the waiting room not that long ago and there was a teenage boy in there, hood up, hat down. You could just tell he did not want to be seen by anybody, and he's playing right next to a little 3-year-old at the kitchen set, so it's just, the new space is gonna have like 3 separate spaces, two separate spaces for waiting, so that if 2 different families are there, they can be separated and not be so close together, because they already, the older boys already or children don't want to be there, so.
Another thing that happens a lot is, almost always the parents that are at the center are in crisis. The kids may or may not understand what's going on, but the parents are freaking out for a lot of different reasons. And so sometimes we have situations where maybe parents aren't together, or maybe they're at odds about the allegations, or maybe they just don't get along with each other anyway. So we'll have private spaces too, just to ease the tension and make sure people who don't get along, people who might influence the interview or influence the child's psychological safety, we have separate spaces for them to be too, but they can both participate in the appointment with their child.
I was gonna ask what the footprint areas that it covers, but you said people come from 2 hours away. So is it all throughout the state? And then how many like centers do we have in the state?
Great question. So our center covers 27 counties, so all of Northeast Iowa. There are 6 accredited centers in the state, and we are kind of regionally based, dependent upon the HHS service areas.
How's funding acquired to support operations year-round?
We always have an operations deficit. Unity Point has been very generous to us over the years, so that when we do have a deficit, which is every year, they assist us with overhead costs like IT support, administrative support, things like that. But of course, we want to close that gap, especially with healthcare changes, billing changes on the horizon in the next few years. Healthcare is going to be looking for a lot more opportunities to close operations gaps. So we do all we can to go throughout our service area and ask for support, not only for this campaign, but also just year-to-year expenses. So we get a grant every year from HHS that covers about 20% of our expenses, but our budget every year is over $1 million. And that budget formula, or that grant formula from the state, hasn't changed in over 20 years.
Kate, how long have you been there?
I've been there since it opened in 2010.
Okay. Looking back to 2010, I mean, what's that, I guess, inflow rate of cases that you guys manage look like? I can only imagine it's growing exponentially.
Yeah, and one of the things that, I think it's exciting because it provides a lot of hope for our families and a lot of different kinds of support. When we first opened, it was literally me and one other person. And so we were only doing forensic interviews, and then we had an administrator. Then we were able to add a medical team. Then we were able to add an advocate. Then we were able to add mental health. And so our services have just expanded over the years, now to include services for drug-affected families. We have dedicated therapists that see kids and family members. And so we're not only seeing kids and families for the investigative services, which we're most known for, but for treatment services. So things that even after their appointment with us, or maybe they are an adult survivor of abuse, they can come and get trauma-informed treatment from our therapists so we can just continue the healing process. So over the last 15 years, we've developed such great relationships with HHS and law enforcement throughout our service area. We see hundreds of law enforcement jurisdictions every year. We work with federal agencies like the FBI, Homeland Security, things like that. Every year as well. And so we've just expanded our network, but like Morgan, one of our board members mentioned in the video, sometimes when we talk about our numbers growing, people are like, oh, that's awful. But It's really a great thing because it means that abuse is being reported, and it means that law enforcement and HHS are referring kids to this best practice model. And so we really want to promote the use of that best practice. It doesn't mean more kids are being abused. It means more kids are abuse is being responded to in an appropriate way.
Thank you.
What's
Do
the
you
time?
ever try to get reimbursement for the services you provide that are available?
Yes, so we receive reimbursement through the Sexual Assault Examination Fund at the Attorney General's office. So whenever we do an examination for sexual abuse, we get a little bit of reimbursement there. We do bill third-party payers for mental health counseling, physical abuse exams, our family resiliency program, but anything that would be a copay or co-insurance is written off. No families ever receive a bill for the services they receive.
As for the campaign, what's the timeline?
We hope to have it, we pledge commitments by the end of the year. So that's kind of our goal, so that they can start with this new building next year. The building is sitting empty right now. Unity Point Health is working on doing some HVAC and sprinkler system upgrades before, just to get it back up to code, I think, before we start in there, but we're hoping to get it fundraised by the end of the year. So we have 1.1 million raised, and we're trying to get to 1.5.
How large is your staff?
Or we have about 18 staff, so from 2 to 18.
And
15 years, yes.
another important piece too that I think not a ton of people know, that the Family and Children's Council's child abuse prevention services went to the CPC last year. And they have a staff person now who goes out to, how many schools has she been out to?
She provided child abuse prevention services like in the school to over 7,000 kids last year. And then she did about 250 preschool students over the summer. And so this year, I think she is scheduled to be in like 21 different schools, most of those in Blackhawk County.
Yeah, so I would like to consider Blackhawk County to give to this campaign. It doesn't have to be money in hand by the end of the year, but we're also taking pledges that can be pledged over several years also. I know budgets are probably already decided and things for next year, but if it doesn't happen for the capital campaign, we're always looking for support, like Katie said, just for their operations, because we're always trying to fundraise just to get them in the black. So, anybody else have any questions?
Another one for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as fundraising events, outside of the capital campaign or anything, what opportunities are there? What have you guys done?
So the CPC is really good about kind of doing their own thing. Like they'll do Child Abuse Prevention Month. They'll have their little fundraisers at Icon Donuts or Applebee's or things like that. That through the foundation, like we have really pushed it through our year and giving appeals, Giving Tuesday. We've done appeals for the CPC. A lot of foundation mailings and year end. We reach out to donors. Some donors are faithful to the CPC, so we have our own set of donors we always reach out to year after year. So
We also partnered with Lost Island Theme Park and Water Park over
Right.
the last couple of years where we have a Be Someone Day. So it's been really fun. Not only do kids get discounted tickets to come to the theme park and water park, but we have our law enforcement partners. So we've had the Sheriff's Office, we've had Waterloo PD, Cedar Falls PD, ambulances, the canines, and then we all do a child safety activity. So they might be learning CPR, they might get to, and the kids' favorite is they get to spray the fire hoses, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do like a safety activity where they identify their safe people, that kind of stuff. So we've been doing that over the last couple of years with Lost Island, and we get a portion of that discount that people who purchase tickets get. So that's been really generous from the Burge family.
I know you said it, can you just restate, what's the percentage of Blackhawk County kids that you see?
So every year it's between like 25 and 28% of the patients that we see reside in Blackhawk County. And as Kim mentioned, our top referral source is the Waterloo Police Department. 25 to 28% might not seem like a lot, but we serve 27 counties. So it is a lot comparatively.
It's probably the highest.
By far.
Yeah.
Any other
We
questions?
can reach out, I guess, you have contact information on here?
Yes, and I'll
We can
leave
reach
this
out.
folder too, I have my card in here, and there is contact information on there about the foundation and stuff, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Couple extra copies of those things in here.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. I also have Nate Neff up here with me. I don't know if he wants to say a few words about what they do. Since he came, he said he was coming. I did meet with Nate, a couple months ago actually, regarding the sheriff's office. So he said that, they obviously use Katie services a lot too, and he said he'd come here and advocate for us also. So I'll let you say a couple words.
Yeah, no, like I said, we met a couple months ago and just kind of
Yeah.
talked about some different ways that we could help get the word out for their campaign, kind of been sharing some social media things that way. Just on a both personal and professional note, the staff there is amazing. Obviously, through work we have to use them far too often, but then on the personal side, my son's been through some trauma as well, and he's actually done their services as well. So I can advocate for them both on the personal and professional side. But the big thing is they are in a hospital, and that can be scary for kids going in, and when you pull up there, there's no doubt that you're going into a hospital, and they feel like you're going into a hospital. I know, been bringing my son out one time, there was somebody, I don't know if she just got bad news, lost someone what she was, but she was going by just crying her eyes out as I'm carrying him out from dealing with his trauma, and now he's got that exposure there, so getting them in their own space will definitely be nice. And I can vouch for sitting in that small waiting room while he's back at a thing. So I was working third shift, so I was sitting there trying not to fall asleep as I had him there, and yeah, there's all the other youngsters running around and stuff, so it's an amazing project, and they're an amazing group, so I just definitely 100% support what they're doing.
I have one more question, and feel free to not answer this, but I'm just curious, because I know that can be horribly difficult for the staff, just because what they have to endure. I'm just wondering what the average tenure is out there.
Well, I've been there 15 years since it opened. We have other team members that have been there like 10 years or more. We do have turnover every now and then, just in some of our more support services. But I would say the average right now of the team we have is probably around 5 or 6 years that people have been there. So, but we do a lot. We have different. I'm a therapist, mental health therapist by education and trade. I still see patients from CPC for therapy, mostly parents. So we do a lot every month to work on secondary and vicarious trauma with our team, because we know we need to keep them emotionally healthy, and they're exposed to things every single day verbally, and sometimes they see pictures or whatever it is, and so that's a huge initiative we have on our team, is to make sure that they're meeting their emotional needs as well, so we can keep them healthy and also keep them retained.
I did talk to one of the medical examiners once, and she was on a meeting with me, and I said, Julie, how do you do this day in and day out? And she was like, what just makes my heart happy is that I know that I'm stopping this kid's abuse now, and this kid's life's gonna be better from here on out. And that's kind of I still get goosebumps just thinking about it. She goes, I know I'm helping them, even though it's a bad situation that they're here right now. But I think that's what really makes the CPC staff stay there, because they know the huge difference they're making in those kids' lives.
Do you have any therapists that are trained in play therapy?
Yes.
I was just curious, that was my mother's specialty as a therapist.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, everybody's got
Both.
information, contact info. I don't want this to be some presentation that we never kick back up, so hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks, everybody asks their questions, and then we can call the question and see what we can put together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, claims and payments. Resolution that the Board of Supervisors approve expenditures, that the county auditor be authorized and directed to issue payments against the various elements of such claims as allowed.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Whedon?
Good morning, Board. Our total bill payment today is $178,437.83. It's probably a record low. It's not a bad thing necessarily. The 60/40 fund of that is $5,846.53. There really are no large or unusual payments today, probably why it's so low.
60/40 is a little higher than normal.
It is. They are paying for a live scan. That's software they use for security, maintenance, and support in the printer. So That is what that's from. Everything appears to be in order.
Keep those up.
Hopefully I have any control of that.
Every fifth Tuesday.
Alright, so resolution roll call, please.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Kurttenbach,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes. Item 5, receive project updates from department heads and elected officials.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas. I'm pleased to tell you that Dubuque Road did open last Friday, so that is back open to routine traffic now. Right next to that, the bridge crew is still working on Ordway Road. This is where we are replacing that timber deck. We do expect that will take until the end of this week to finish. We would like to place a seal coat on that right away if possible, so we are shopping around for a vendor who can come in and do that, so we may keep that bridge closed for another couple weeks if we can get the seal coating done this year yet. We have finished hauling mile rock. The secondary roads crew has finished hauling mile rock for the year, and we are just looking for places that require some spot rocking. And then the last contract that is still open is the border contracting construction group. They have mobilized out of the bridge down south, and we are waiting on a date for them to come back and begin work on that Donald Street site that we talked about last week due to the change order. And I am working on scheduling a few more meetings for the local option sales tax information meetings, and I will keep you posted when I have all of those scheduled, probably by the end of this week. I'll let you know. Can I answer any questions? Thank you.
Kathy did a great job yesterday at Rotary when she presented, not just on the loss, but also on the roads and her department.
Morning, Board. Caitlin Emmerich with Public Health. I just wanted to kind of thank everyone that was able to come to the ribbon cutting for the mobile clinic last Wednesday. For those of you that weren't there, it was an intimate by intention, but really fabulous event. I think I did 4 media interviews, so I'm hoping if you weren't there, you heard about it. And then we had an open house for our community partners in the afternoon, and we got to see and hear from a lot of our community partners and ideas about how we can partner together for that mobile clinic. Our first event to provide services using the clinic is tomorrow, Wednesday, October 1st from 10 to 5. It's in the parking lot of the Northeast Iowa Food Bank. We partnered with the Food Bank and Operation Threshold to try to be conveniently located for those to receive services. We're offering free HIV and STI screenings and free MMR vaccines for kids and adults who need them. We'll also have community resource information from both partner organizations. And then on Saturday, we will be out at the range with Nate and their team. And we'll have the clinic open for anyone that didn't get a chance to tour it, that wants to take a look. We won't be providing services, but it'll be kind of a chance to learn more about it and see the unit if they haven't seen it already. Any questions for me?
It was a great event and it's a really remarkable facility and tool.
Sorry I missed it. I would have rather been there than the O'Hare Airport for 10 hours. That's where it is.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
County Sheriff. Just kind of what Caitlin alluded to, but this Saturday is our community engagement day at our training facility. It'll be from 11 to 2. We've got lunch donated by both Starbucks and Tyson's are providing food. We'll have staff out doing face painting, different things for the kids, and it's just a chance for the community to kind of interact with law enforcement on a nice social level, not involving calls, not involving anything negative. So just come out and see what we do, see where we train, kind of hopefully pull that curtain down a little bit. And obviously we'd love to see as many of you there as well. And Ms. Caitlin said she'll have the mobile clinic there to show that off. Raymond Fires has a fire truck there. We'll have our drone team up, kind of showing what they can do. And so again, just a chance to interact with the public and hope to see you guys there as well.
It's 11 to 2?
11 to 2 at the range, yeah.
We're planning on coming, Nate.
Excellent.
Grants will be there in full force.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
Let's move to item 6, minutes approved for the September 23rd meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 7, the consent agenda. The items listed below will be acted upon with a single resolution without separate discussion unless someone from the board or the public requests a specific item be considered separate.
So moved.
Second.
I did ask Nick, Tim if he was willing, since the actuarial opinion came in just this morning, if you would mind giving us an update and a little bit about information about that.
Sure. Tim Jamison, Systems Real Estate Tax Manager in the Auditor's Office. As you might appreciate, the insurance industry is heavily regulated and we have to file a lot of reports throughout the course of the year. This one in particular is IO Code 509A.15, requires us to file annual financial information, an actuarial opinion, and a certificate of compliance with the Iowa Insurance Commissioner by the end of September every year. We hire an actuary, Insurance Strategies Consulting in Des Moines, pay them about $1,000, I think it's $1,035 this year, which is up a little from last year, to prepare that actuarial report. It came back and said, yes, we're in compliance, yes, we have adequate reserves to pay our outstanding obligations. And so once this is approved today, I'll file this with the Iowa Insurance Commissioner this afternoon.
Is it rare, Tim, that people aren't in compliance?
I have no idea. We've been easily in compliance for a long time, at least as far back as I know. So I wouldn't know if somebody was getting dinged for that. So.
And what would be, I guess, the action that we take if we knew we were out of compliance, or you would get this letter and?
Well, it depends on where we're out of compliance, I guess. There's the certificate of compliance, there's a number of things that we have to assert that we're following different state laws related to making a good example. But the actuarial part, basically what he's looking at, and Michelle, please correct me if I'm wrong, at the end of the year, we're reporting we have X amount of dollars, but we have claims that have been incurred prior to that we haven't paid for yet. So he's making sure that what we have for cash reserves, that we're reporting as cash reserves, is adequate to pay those claims that haven't actually come through. And he reported that to $914,000, I think, this year, but we have over $8 million in reserves, so we're easily in compliance. Obviously, if we didn't have enough in there, I think we would be coming to you, asking you to increase the contribution rates, but I mean, I'm kind of speculating how we handle that.
We've not done that, I take it,
No.
for probably since you've been doing this.
And I think if our reserves weren't in good shape, we would all be hearing from the insurance division, because that's one of their functions. I think one of the other things we have to keep them informed on is the number of complaints.
Right.
Stuff like that.
There's the certificate of compliance that we fill out has a lot of other questions that aren't necessarily related to the financial status of the plan, just that we're following all the rules that they put forth. And yes, one of those is complaints. We have to have a complaint process. If a claim gets denied, a person has to have the ability to appeal that. So we do have that system in place, and we have to report to them, we have this system in place, here's how many appeals we received, here's how many were upheld or rejected. So I think this year we have two appeals. Can't remember if they were upheld or rejected.
Thank you.
There's several other reports that we have to file throughout the year. The Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, Iowa Individual Health Benefit Reinsurance Association, which I think Rich took an interest in last year. So there's a number of these things that come through every year. And obviously if there's a problem, we'd highlight that before I brought it to you. So.
Thanks, Tim. All right, this is a resolution. Roll call, please.
Leyland.
Yes.
Kurttenbach.
Yes.
Brant.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes. Item 8A, resolution that the employer consulting and well-being services pricing estimate between Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Iowa and Blackhawk County in the amount of $5,825 for the implementation of the WellBeats virtual well-being platform as part of the county's employer sponsored wellness program be approved with payment to be made from the county's health insurance trust fund as recommended by Amanda Fesenmeyer, Human Resources.
So moved. Second.
Morning, Board. Thanks for considering this today. So as I kind of covered in my email, this is a platform that Wellmark, who is our TPA for our health insurance for the employees here, recommended in conjunction with our benefit consultants and working with finance, HR, and the auditor's office. It's one that it isn't necessarily typically, budgeted from year to year since we have that self-insurance fund that we can utilize for health benefits. So similar to kind of what we did last year where we enhanced our long-term disability plan for the health insurance fund, this is kind of a similar process where we get a recommendation and I bring it to the board for consideration. Wellmark is has a good understanding of wellness resources, and this is a platform that's similar to any other online platform that you would pay for like a subscription. For example, to have access to nutrition plans, could be meditation type programs, could be fitness activities, things like that, workout programs, and something that we felt aligned with the needs of our employees and for a pretty reasonable cost. I think Tim just got up here and said there's $8 million in that fund, and this is a $5,000 investment. So it does tie into my presentation later when we talk about the employee wellness incentive program, and but this is just an example of a resource that we can provide that's been recommended by our health insurance provider, and one that after vetting it we felt this is a step in the right direction. So timeline is it wouldn't actually be implemented likely till January 1st if we sign off on this and approve it today. But it would be one that employees would have access to it through their online Wellmark access right now. I believe we have over 50% employees enrolled. That happened because of the transition from Preferred 1 to Wellmark a couple years ago. When we changed our TPA, and we had a lot of people that took it at that time to enroll in their Wellmark access. So it would be through that they would have the ability to log on to this and to use it in their home. So that is really the just kind of a brief overview of the program. Available to answer any questions.
Would you guys be able to know how many people are using it? Like to track that once they enroll?
I think we should, yes, we would have, because there does require some kind of profile to be set up, and then you select those things. I can follow up with Wellmark and ask about how they would provide that, but it would likely just be a utilization report, similar to what we get from like our EAP. Yep. But yeah, I think we could certainly look at tracking that and see if it's something that, and it will, we'll need to promote it, certainly. We have 50% of our staff that are signed up through Wellmark. It is open right now, even if you don't have, I believe, the health insurance plan, you could still enroll in the platform, because we do have a handful of employees that don't actually take our benefits. A majority of the employees do sign up for the benefits though, and would have access through just logging in and looking at their claims or their digital ID cards, things like that. So we've had requests over the years about, do you offer any kind of discount programs for gym memberships? Do you offer any kind of incentive rewards? So this is kind of an option again for those that maybe they don't want to go to the gym. We saw, of course, with COVID and personal fitness become a need to do at home, and something that you can do at the comfort of your, whatever facility you have, rather than going to an actual, gym facility, things like that. I like that it also has things beyond just fitness, though. Things like for your nutritional, goals, as well as mindfulness and a kind of broader scope than just workout options.
Do you know if there's any, I guess, success metrics out there, like to show, like who have enrolled at, or who has enrolled in the past?
Sure.
From other places, and then how that's maybe shown improvement in their lives?
I don't know that they've had case studies out there. I know Des Moines Public Schools was an example. I believe Cedar Falls Facilities. Most agencies that adopt an incentive program, which is different than this, typically tag in WellBeats, because WellBeats is I guess a resource where if you have an incentive program and let's say you earn points to achieve time off, to achieve like a $500 bonus or something like that, if you're enrolled and showing that you've completed these types of programs on WellBeats, those are things that you count towards those milestones. So their recommendation is just to start with this, kind of see what the appetite is for people to get involved before we kind of look at incentive programs. But from what I've understood, speaking to others that have Wellmark, which Wellmark covers, I would say, majority of the cities and counties typically in the state of Iowa. So this is one that's kind of oh yeah, we've got well beats, and based on the feedback that they've gotten, employees have enjoyed having the option to log in, and it doesn't cost them anything. To everything from yoga to just kind of well-being resource to help them be successful at work and at home. But I don't have necessarily like success. They have case studies out there that I could look at a little bit more closely. But it's not something that you're going to see a massive drop in like healthcare costs. But it's more just like supporting staff and giving them an option and a resource to support their wellness goals. But they haven't come to me and said, oh yeah, Wellbeats drives this kind of, with this participation, you're going to see this kind of outcome, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. But certainly something I can ask them. Yeah.
If you have time to support it to it.
Yep.
You can do it all.
Yep. But, yeah, relatively small investment in terms of offering a platform to employees for something that they can use. That helps round out our wellness benefits program. Other questions or?
All right, thank you. This is a resolution, roll call please.
Kurttenbach,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes. Item 8B, resolution to approve the amended contract with Schumacher Elevator Company for the Pinecrest Building hydraulic elevator project to remediate deficiencies in the underground elevator shaft, including re-drilling and installation of casing, and additional estimated cost of $50,000 as recommended by Roy Giving, Facilities Director.
So moved.
Good morning, Board. Roy Giving, Facilities Director. This is an additional repair on top of the recently approved repair for the hydraulic elevator over at the Pinecrest facility. As they were in the process of pulling the piston out, which the piston would go into a cylinder which goes the depth of the height that the elevator travels. So approximately 40 feet down is the cylinder in which this piston goes into. When they pulled the piston out, they discovered that the cylinder was compromised. It's a steel casing, basically. That collapsed on them. Last week they brought in call it a sucker truck, but they tried to clean out the existing hole to be able to put a new casing in there, and that was unsuccessful. Talking with Schumacher, they say 1 in 20 hydraulic elevators that they do this replacement, they'll run into a situation like this. They work with a company out of Pennsylvania, United Drilling, which specializes in doing interior drilling for shafts such as this. What they're looking at is basically putting in a PVC casing, which would withstand deterioration down the road more so than the steel casing that's there now. So unfortunately, the estimated price for this additional repair is $50,000, and we're here today to ask for approval to keep this project going.
Roy, would you share some of the thoughts when we talked a little bit about making the case for this that you shared kind of? Like
Yeah. So with the project that we have going on over at Pinecrest right now, with moving the health department down to first floor, we did that resulted in moving HHS up to second floor. So one benefit would be travel for clients to see HHS, being able to go right up to their lobby. Within the last, I'd say, couple of months, we've had 2 incidents where a photo eye failed on the main elevator, which consequently shut that elevator down, which resulted in everybody having to take the stairs, and in some cases that's just not a possibility. So we've actually seen that happen here in the last couple of months. That's probably, I would say, the #1 factor that's pushing us to get this hydraulic elevator up and running again. You know, when you have 5 floors, 1 elevator, you take that risk. It is a mechanical piece of equipment and it will fail at times. So I think that's probably the 2 best scenarios I could give.
As far as funding, Rory, does this come out of your budget then, or are you needing somewhere else?
So I was out the last part of last week, and I haven't had a chance to really get into it real deep with Michelle, but I do know that there's some bonding funding, that additional funding out there, and maybe Michelle could explain a little more in detail.
So this project originally was included in our bond issue, and the costs of issuing the bonds were lower than what they recommended be projected, so there are some funds available that can be added for this one. So I think the project cost is covered.
And the original cost was like $54,000.
$54,000.
Yep.
Chances of coming under 50,000?
You know, I spoke with him yesterday. He was comfortable with the 50,000. In fact, he was comfortable with doing a not to exceed 50,000. But the chances of coming under that are probably pretty slim. They work with this company pretty exclusively, and so they have a pretty good feel for what that service is and what that cost is.
I think you're right, with a 5-story building and just 1 elevator and having some of these issues and concerns too. Because we thought about this long and hard before doing it.
Right, I mean, this elevator went down pre-COVID. You know, we've brought it in front of the board several times. We talked about just mothballing it. And then once we put the project together with the health department, that's when it kind of came back to life. So once you do mothball this particular elevator, there is no going back. Given the equipment room that this elevator operates out of, if we were to take it out of service, essentially they call it mothball it, we would have to bring everything up to the new code standards, even in the equipment room, and that would be next to impossible and where that's located at. So right now we're somewhat grandfathered in. So.
What's the age of this elevator?
It was put in, we believe it was put in 79, I want to say.
How many trips up and down? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, the counter, it's been so long I can't even remember what this elevator looks like, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Any other questions for Rory? All right, roll call please.
Grant.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Kurttenbach.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes. Item 9A, motion to accept the resignation of Steve Rauser as a representative of the Blackhawk County Board of Adjustment effective September 24th, 2025.
Reluctantly, yes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9B, resolution of the statement of completion and final acceptance of work for project LFM 50297X07, shoulder grading on Brandon Road in Blackhawk County be approved and direct the chair to sign for same and authorize and direct the auditor to make final payment in the amount of $12,744.22 with a total project cost of $147,962.80 as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer. Do we have a motion?
Some.
Second. Sorry.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, good morning again, board. As is customary, when I ask you for a final acceptance of a project, I like to show you some photos of before and after in particular, so I will do that. So this is on Brandon Road. If you're familiar with this, would be in the southeast portion of the county as you take Brandon Road to the northeast out of Port City. It is east of Canfield Road, just east of there. There's about 720 vehicles per day that travel this portion of Brandon Road. What had been happening over the last probably decade, is the ditch had begun to meander quite a bit, getting very close to Brandon Road in a few places. And we felt that this was becoming quite a hazard due to, in the winter months particularly, or if the ditch was full of water, we were concerned that a vehicle leaving the roadway could enter that ditch and somebody could drown or that type of thing. This seemed like a good solution was to relocate that ditch, about 2,600 feet of that ditch, and kick it to the north about 15, on average about 15 to 17 feet to the north. We did acquire some right-of-way and began a contract with PCI, which you approved last, I believe in December. You approved it in December because then PCI got to work right away. The weather was favorable so that they were able to begin work last December. You can see the contract amount was about $130,000. Our typical liquidated damages, 20 working days. So here are a few photos. As I said, they began work right away in December. They began clearing out there were some shrubs, vegetation. They began clearing that and began cutting in the new ditch. And then the winter did arrive after Christmas, late last year, early this year. We did get winter, and so then it sat for 3 or 4 months. And then the rains picked up, as you recall, in late March and April. And then we had quite a bit of erosion out there on the ditch. So that took some repairs. And we did have a little bit of an increase in cost due to a few more erosion control measures that were needed to keep us in compliance with our stormwater pollution prevention plan. As part of the plan, we did install this erosion control mat for future erosion, just to keep that down. There was some rock placed, some riprap placed at the, there is a box culvert in the middle of this project for Oxley Road. Oxley Road is in the middle of the project. We did place riprap at the culvert. And then here's a few photos of Griffin, our roadside biologist, spraying, applying some mulching and some native seeding onto the project. Those were taken probably in June, and then I took these photos just last week. So you can see that we do have well-established vegetation. A lot of it is natives. They are coming in really well. We're also getting some weed growth, but we'll work on that over the next few years. And you can see the final cost was about $148,000, slightly over 13% above our original contract cost. That's a little bit high for us, but we did have experience some unanticipated erosion that we did take care of. PCI finished within the 20 days, so therefore no liquidated damages were applied, and this project was built in substantial conformance to our plans and specifications. So I do recommend you accept this project for final completion and that we be allowed to release the retainage back to PCI. Can I answer any questions?
Got a motion and a second on the resolution. All roll call, please.
Leyland.
Yes.
Kurttenbach.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes. Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks.
Item 9C, resolution to approve the designation of county voting representatives for the Iowa State Association of Counties, ISAC, in accordance with the updated November 2024 ISAC Articles of Incorporation.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Otherwise,
Have we had someone designated in the past?
I was gonna say, Karen, if you prepared that for us, I believe, did you not?
Yeah, this is a new requirement that the legislature passed, so this just gets any of us elected officials, when we go to ISAC conferences, we can be a voting member. So we have to have this in place for us to be able to do that.
I do see here there's a couple other names that aren't elected.
That's probably, is TJ on there?
TJ's on there.
Like Kathy?
Yes, Kathy. Iowa Community Services Association.
That one I don't know, but, you know, like auditors,
Doesn't exist.
engineers, assessors, we all have our affiliates and we all are a voting member of our affiliate.
We've also got county zoning officials, Adrienne Miller, but she's no longer, she was our building person with the city, but she's no longer with the city. But working with it.
She wasn't really ours, I think, maybe from representing the county, if that's what you mean.
On the docket I need to sign, she's listed.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
There was a breakout for P and Z folks when I went down there to the conference.
Is that something you'd like to change?
Yeah, do you know who, I don't even know who would be the new person over there.
Well, it would be Joseph.
Joseph would be
Yeah.
our rep.
but I don't know if that,
I don't know if he does. I don't know if he ever would go, I mean,
yeah.
Unless we asked him to. Or
we'd have to ask.
something.
It's just that they're kind of, you're recognizing that they could vote for you, really, right?
Right, and I will say that, we're a little behind the eight ball on this, so we're supposed to get it back to them by October 5th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for completing.
So, sure, I'm sure.
It's not October 5th, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's see.
I would probably recommend that we get this back over to
And we can amend it
ISAC,
later.
but we can amend it
Okay.
later.
All right, got a resolution, do we have a motion in a second?
We do.
All right. Roll call please.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Brand,
Yes.
Kirkenbach,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes. Item 9D, discussion of possible board action to receive an update from the opioid settlement fund application committee regarding recommendations for Blackhawk County opioid abatement funds, use application process and timeline.
Morning again, Caitlin Emmerich. I'm here speaking. I'll probably be doing most of the speaking, but I also want to acknowledge that our Public Health Deputy Director, Ty Burkhart, Michelle is the Finance Director, and Colleen, I wasn't sure who might get it today, and Colleen Shipper from General Assistance. The four of us together have been working on that information that we're going to present to you today regarding opioid settlement funds application and related documents. So the components that we have put together and presented as part of the application package include a fund application, a scoring matrix that is designed for you as the Board of Supervisors to utilize when you score applications, a draft contract that Mike has taken a look at, and I believe we're all good to go with that draft contract. And then a couple of attachments that are referenced in that contract, the minimum insurance requirements that are required by county policy, an invoice template for applicants to use when they're submitting for reimbursement, and reporting templates that would be used to make sure that the county has the information needed to be able to then report back to whoever we report back to. The state, okay. So I just want to walk through a couple of sections of the funds application itself. This is in the background section of the application that you have for review. We did make sure that the application and kind of everything that goes together in the application package is compliant with approved abatement strategies as listed in the Iowa Attorney General's Iowa Opioid Allocation Memorandum of Understanding. So kind of as a reminder, we've talked about this many times. This is the Exhibit E with the core strategies. We only fund things that are in alignment with that MOU and that are approved abatement strategies. The other thing in the disbursement of funds section, we're recommending the award is slightly above projected annual payments through FY29. So that would mean for the 18-month period that this first application would cover, that would be $750,000 in total awards. And then in the 2 subsequent years after that, it would be $500,000 annually. And that is in alignment with what Michelle has shared previously with our anticipated funding by fiscal year. So we're anticipating to receive, and maybe Michelle, you should cover this, but we're anticipating to receive about $440,000 annually through FY29. And so what we're recommending is that we would fund at $500 annually, or prorated to annually, $750 for the first 18 months. Moving on through the funds application, there is a section on allowable and priority activities and a table that is in there for reference. The table was created using the gap analysis that was completed by the Opioid Settlement Fund Subcommittee. And so the priority strategies that were either identified in that gap analysis or were voted to be priority strategies are reflected as tier 1 strategies. And then other high priority needs are identified as tier 2, and then all other allowable activities are in the tier 3 category of that table. And I point that out just because in the scoring matrix there is recommended scoring levels for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, where tier 1 strategies would get the highest score, tier 1 would get the next highest, and tier 3 would get the third highest. Allowable expenses, just something to point out in that section that the administrative cap is 2.5% for allowable expenses for applicants to apply for. This is outlined in the allocation, the opioid allocation MOU in section B9. So that's why it's capped at 2.5%, because that's all we're allowed to to be billed for administrative costs. We also included a recommendation that a brief presentation would cover all aspects of the project application. I'll get to the timeline in a little bit, but due to the kind of the timeline, those presentations, if chosen to proceed with them, would need to occur November 18th and November 25th. So kind of an outline of the timeline that we've proposed. Is that we've proposed the applications be released on October 15th. Lost my timeline in my notes here, just a second. There we go. We proposed the applications be released October 15th, that there would be an opportunity for potential applicants to ask questions, and those questions would be due October 24th with responses posted on the 31st of October. And then the final applications would be due November 11th at 5 p.m. The Board of Supervisors would then score the applications between the 12th of November and the board meeting on November 2nd, with action being taken at the November 2nd board meeting, and then a notice of intent to award on December 3rd to all applicants. And that notice of intent to award is something that we're familiar with in public health. It gives applicants the opportunity to plan for execution of their project. So instead of letting them know, we're going to award you and here's the contract and sign it and now the project period starts tomorrow, it gives a little bit of time for them to prepare for the project to start, but still a little bit of time for those contracts to be ran through the approval and negotiation process. So that notice of intent to award would be December 3rd with a project start date of January 1. In the fund application, we did propose some evaluation criteria. This evaluation criteria is based on kind of best practices for evaluation criteria, things that need to be shown through the opioid settlement MOUs and well, just really those two things, best practices and things that need to be shown through the opioid settlement MOUs. So as I mentioned, the abatement strategy, there's 3 tiers for those. This is based on a 100-point scale. The project description is 35% of the overall weight It also includes program sustainability, expected outcomes, project schedule and key dates, and budget and financial documentation. And then the application itself, the categories that we're proposing for the application includes kind of organizational details, so information that anyone would need to create the contract essentially and have points of contact and things like that. A project narrative, which would outline the abatement strategy that's being proposed, a description of that strategy, the sustainability plan, the expected outcomes, the project schedule, and key dates. It is very close aligns with the scoring rubric. We try to make it as straightforward as possible for all parties involved, both the applicants and the you that would be scoring the applications. It also includes a project budget and financial documentation section and an application certification kind of attestation. We're proposing reporting requirements to happen 3 times in the 18-month period. So a mid-year report in July of 26 and January of 27, with a final report due July 30th of 2027. Again, there's a proposal for a brief presentation summarizing the overall project, covering all aspects of the final report. So essentially, they could take their final report form and kind of just present on what they wrote in the final report. That final report in mid-year report, the reporting form is the same for mid-year and final report, with the final report having a sustainability component where the mid-year report doesn't require that. The reporting categories would be in alignment with the application categories and things that we've already asked them to write upon. So it, again, try to make that pretty streamlined to what they'd be reporting on. And the reporting requirements does collect all the information needed for the required reporting that we're then responsible for doing back to the state under that MOU section C4. That's kind of everything. It's pretty quick. Are there questions for any of the 4 of us?
How many applicants would you anticipate in that first round? Any idea?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know how we would anticipate that.
Will you as a committee screen the applicants, or the applications as they come in, I guess, to make certain they are qualified before we
So
score?
that's something we didn't discuss, but I think we could do. We could do kind of a preliminary, is this project even eligible? Does it meet one of the abatement strategies? Yeah, we could add that as a step in the process. We did design the scoring rubric to be done by you all, since you have authority to administer those funds, but we certainly could help with the screening, I think.
Some of the questions in the scoring matrix looks a lot similar to the other thing that we're doing.
They might, yes. We did use the community services fund as a starting place, but I will say we changed it pretty significantly as we started to move through it, both because it's a different project, right? There's restrictions posed upon us by through the terms of that MOU that we have to collect certain things for reporting and those kinds of things. But also, I would say Ty and I both have a lot of experience with grant writing and reporting, and so we built in some of the things that we're just used to doing, and that I think a lot of the applicants would also be used to doing.
I assume, Michelle, we'll be doing like the contract for services with them similar, or no?
Yes.
To what we do with funding?
It is similar. I learned a lot from Caitlin and Ty on this committee, and so I have some suggestions for improving our contracts that we use with the other funding. So that we've already drafted the bones of the contract, but then each one has to be customized for whatever project, the applicant wants to do. But yeah.
And then they perform the services and then are rebated funding or request funding?
Yes,
or how is that?
I had requested that we don't include the actual timeframes for reimbursements, because again, we don't know how many applications we're gonna get, we don't know if they're gonna be large or small. But we definitely are doing it on a reimbursement basis only, and for larger contracts, it may be like a monthly, you know, if we're paying out $5,000 or $6,000 a month to process that much at a time, if their total award is $3,000, we may just hold that till it's complete. So trying to build in some flexibility for staff on that.
So in Article 3 of the proposed contract, we have a couple of sections that are highlighted yellow, and those would be placeholders that would be filled in with details from the application. And so we just left that open, that it says time frame, depending on whatever makes sense from the application.
With I like the idea of the pre-screening, especially this first time around, not knowing how many. I would appreciate though, if there are any applications that are disqualified ahead of us receiving, just, a heads up from the committee of why and that sort of thing, that in case we get approached out in the public.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think we would only probably be recommending disqualification, we'll be recommending we don't believe they meet the requirements, but that's obviously your call.
That was gonna be my only recommendation too, and so I think this is a pretty good timeline and process. I appreciate the work that's been done.
The one thing that we did discuss in the timeline, just for you all as board members, is obviously that the due date for applications is Veterans Day. The way the submissions will come in is electronic, so the county offices will be closed, but that does not matter, that the county offices will be closed. And then the timeline for reviewing does go through the Thanksgiving holiday, with that kind of final review date being December 2nd. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and you can start reviewing November 12th, but the holidays are part of that review period, and so it does put a burden on you all to kind of compete with holiday plans. So I just wanted to point that out.
Could it be possible to change that Veterans Day due date? I just wonder, even though it's online, just in case there was like a tech problem.
Like to the 12th or something? Yeah.
Maybe change the time frame to reduce kind of.
Yeah, for time for us to review, we basically would have
A month, right?
It's 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Sorry. Yeah, worse.
Yep, it's 3 weeks to review.
And depending on how many you get, if you just had a few, we don't know. If you have 34, like we did with the community funding.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. Did you all came to that decision of 3 weeks was for a reason, I assume? It was maybe looking kind of
Yeah, it
backing
was
out
kind of
dates.
going backwards
Backing
from
out
the
dates.
January 1st timeline. Now, it's possible that, we could push it back a little bit because the draft contract is kind of ready to go. It's that negotiation period and getting them out and executed and things like that Michelle shared through your experience that takes time to do that part. So we wanted to make sure there was enough time to do that part. So it was really the January 1st start date that we were trying to maintain.
Well, and if you all look at them as well and review them kind of like the pre-screening for us to, I was gonna say that all helps, but I just thought you'll need time to do that as well.
Can you give us a preliminary report on the 18th, November 18th?
Well, I think we probably should do it. We'll have to.
Well, if you're moving the date back to the 12th, that's only gonna give you a couple of days in that
Yeah.
process.
Let's see.
And that roughly 30 days between intent to award and project start date, that's pretty standard. Is you try to keep that window, I'm assuming, or
Particularly when you've got holidays in there,
Yeah.
I typically have a really hard time, you know, getting people available to process contracts and do things from about, I don't know, December 15th till January 1st, it's hard.
Yeah, and I think at least notifying the agencies that they were selected, the project was selected, to give them that time to plan, because otherwise it's hard to be a funded agency and not have that time to know that you're gonna be funded and to get ready for the project start date. So I think as much time as we can give agencies to do that, the better it would be kind of overall.
Well, if we only have 3, obviously that's probably easier than if we have 15, but we don't know what it will be.
Yeah, and I don't, the 18th would be a regular board meeting. I don't know kind of what's allowable for internal communication versus what has to be at the board meeting, but I think if, you know, I might need your input on this, for how we would communicate, you know, these are applicants that are eligible based on the criteria for.
So you're talking about communication to the board outside of a public meeting, right?
To let them know which applicants
I was gonna say, you
are
can
eligible.
communicate that to the board, that's fine, the discussions just can't occur until we have a meeting where there's notice pursuant to chapter 21.
Yeah, so given that, I think, you know, if we work it into our schedules, do we think probably maybe by that Friday, the 15th? We'll see how many applications there are, maybe. And the other thing is, if we get a lot of applications, we might be able to just break them into pools and screen the first, you know, 10 or 15 applicants and pass those along, and then screen the next 10 or 15 applicants and pass those along. So at least you guys can start your scoring process.
So is there a narrower field where these dollars are available for?
What do you mean?
When you're doing these applications that they're coming in, is there a narrower field that these dollars could be used for?
Well, the tier 1 strategies that we've kind of pulled out and put at the top of the list for consideration would be what I would consider the narrower field. Those are the strategies that align with a gap analysis that we already did. Community partners already did it. Vicki was part of it as one of the, you know, key players in substance use organizations in our community. So I think that the applications that are in tier 1 or that tier 2 are going to be the ones that I would recommend the board to look closely at. Does that help?
That's what I was asking.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Other questions? I think the potential action part of this discussion is if there are any requested changes to the materials that you would like us to do before moving forward with the timeline as proposed with getting the application to be ready for posting on the 15th. We can definitely make the change to the 12th for the due date rather than the 11th. But just kind of.
Or if the 10th makes it easier.
Or yep, just a day that somebody's here.
Yes.
Yes, yep, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense.
You know, we changed the community funding request to it's kind of separated out, the dollar amounts would be later. We said we would kind of come to the conclusion, I guess, of what those projects are that kind of rise to the top, just from a scoring standpoint, and then discuss that later. Will we be discussing financing separate from projects selected, do you think? Or, I mean, and we know there are a lot of requests that we receive now that we don't fund that full request. I don't know if we would expect these to be funding full requests, or again, we just have to determine the dollar amount we want to support.
Yeah, I think it's hard to tell. You know, we are recommending that 500,000 annually, kind of for this first round. It's 750 because it's an 18-month period, and so kind of you know, I don't know how many applications there will be, but,
Or the
I think
amount
it's-
of requests.
right, I think it's hard to anticipate if that will be a consideration. What I will say is there is a question in the application that asks about if the funding cannot be, let me find the application. The question is under the budget and financial documentation section, and it says, if partial funding is awarded, are you able to proceed with the project, yes or no? If yes, indicate which components would be prioritized if only partial funding is awarded. So it does help set you guys up to make that decision if you get to a point where you have more requests than funds available.
And looking at that rubric, that 15 points available and the expected outcomes, I would assume that's where we would read that question, read the answer to that question and say, well, if they're not able, then does that impact the 15 points?
Right, yeah, and just, you know, some projects, it's all or none. If you don't get all the funding, you can't do the project, and so that's why we put the question in there. And the other part of that question asks for a budget narrative. So you can evaluate, does the narrative that's provided with the budget, is it logical? Does it make sense? Those kinds of things, and I think that might help as well.
Could we put something in the application process or that's posted that gives us, because this is so new, I mean, we're really kind of wading into all this with all kinds of different timelines and rubrics and that type of thing to work with, and don't know how many we'll get and how much time it's gonna take, that would allow us some allowance for changing timelines. Not that we want to have our goals be those timelines, but so that if we don't respond at that date, or we find we don't have some decision made, that I guess just kind of not a courtesy, but some
acknowledgement that
that
we've got to be flexible because this is a new
that
process.
we're trying, but yeah, that it may not be to those exact dates.
I don't know if we have anything in there right now, but are you asking for something in the background information in the application, a statement of, you know, the county reserves the right to modify important
Timelines.
dates or something?
One of my we were gonna say anticipated dates or something, I don't know if we left that in or not.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't want it so strong really is that we reserve the right, but just kind of that those very kind of stringent or rigid timelines, if we aren't able to make those, that we want to at least acknowledge that to them as well, but not that we want to be off track by far, but I just meant if there's something we haven't done or something we find out that's a timeline that we can't meet.
Yep, I think we can do that.
That's all. Thank you. And get our community funding ones in. By what time? Do we have a date on that? I know it was by October, but I was thinking like that's tomorrow.
So I did my, well,
No,
wait for-
I know, yeah, that's okay.
Wait for a discussion.
I was just thinking how that needed to change, or sometimes if everybody meets that requirement, we get it all in time, how well you see how that goes. 'Cause this kind of that was kind of a test for us as well, but first time doing it, I liked it so far. Thank you. Okay, so you want some direction from us today, I would assume, to get.
Well, I think if you, as a board, agree or take action or whatever needs to happen, we can
Sounds
work.
good.
We can work with
There's
the,
no
we can work
action
with
taken on here.
IT or whoever we need to work with to get the application materials ready for posting for the website, so I think that's the action item.
That would be the good, okay.
So do we have?
I'll make a motion to adopt the recommended timeline and application process set forth by the Opioid Settlement Fund Application Committee, with the addition that the committee will provide an initial review determining overall eligibility.
There was a second there?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10A, discussion of possible board action of employee well-being incentive program.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Can we take a very brief recess?
Good idea.
Thank you.
taking a little break?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
He does know he can leave at any time.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't he?
I mean, I kinda can, so
Okay.
I'll take advantage of it.
I'll wait my turn.
Yeah. Good idea.
No, apologies. You'll know Sharon when it goes. Yeah, go ahead.
Hearing I had this morning, that it
Yeah?
was one of those that I
Yeah, as long as you get-
just wanted to find out. So it says source of tag here.
Yeah, yeah.
This wasn't a bad one to show.
Well, this part of it might have been better if you could have this part first, huh?
Yeah, it would have been this part first.
Well, you'd have missed this though,
Yeah.
that's what you'd have missed, yeah.
Well, this one, it was
Yeah, you've heard that before, sure. I was gonna say, I saw Vicky here, and that was one of the things before you left for, your week off with moms. One of her contracts for that Too Good for Drugs was one. Do you think she's close to that? Okay.
Maybe not that, we've gotten at least 2 contracts with them taken care of, I just need to.
Yes, we did with the jail and stuff, and she just, we weren't sure we were gonna do the one for her, but we needed it looked at to make sure, okay.
Still waiting for some of that, but I will check, I had 2 calls.
I saw she was here today, I thought she might bring it up, so I was like, that's why. All right, you're still talking to him? I thought you weren't friends.
Only, strictly only.
This is only business?
Yes, if you don't mind signing
I would think Uncle Joseph for I've never known them to do it, but the person's name, I can see where you would show up.
but I'll make a copy and scan it and send it over.
She was kind of always good at all that person. It's kind of like, that'd be, she'd be probably surprised by that too, you want me to do what? Famous last words. I don't need you.
Well, I guess Lori's going to get it.
A lot of my friends, relatively few, just, 3 days straight of rain.
You're kidding me.
We kind of do that.
Same old.
All right, call the meeting back to order. We'll move forward with the discussion possible board action of employee well-being incentive programs.
Okay. Do this correctly before we even share. Okay. All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to come before you and just kind of highlight what we're doing in human resources and in other offices, including public health, auditors, finance, to bring to you an option of an employee well-being incentive program. Okay, so first off, just want to talk a little bit about our well-being program, the current plan, why it matters, trends that we're seeing, and maybe a bit of a gap that we're recognizing as well, and an opportunity to fill that gap. But why well-being matters, we know that employee well-being is directly linked to things like our productivity, performance, absenteeism, turnover, retention, but overall there's kind of stronger connection to the organization for an employer that demonstrates they care about the achievements of the employees' well-being. We're seeing studies show that there's also a greater impact with well-being sponsored programs, such as 61% of employees agree that they have made a healthier lifestyle choice because of their organization's workplace wellness program. In addition to why that matters for our workforce, I also want to highlight some key market drivers that we're seeing. The kind of global corporate wellness program is a growing market right now. I think it's valued at like $70 billion from an article that I recently read, and it has projections by 2033 to grow to $120 billion. What's driving that is that there's a growing focus on employee mental health in the workplace. Companies are now really placing a serious emphasis on mental health support as a core part of their corporate wellness strategy or organizational wellness strategy. Burnout, stress, and anxiety have become common in today's fast-paced workplace culture, prompting employers to rethink how we're going to care for our teams. According to a recent report by the American Psychological Association, over 77% of workers have experienced work-related stress that impacts their mental well-being. This is really driving businesses to offer solutions such as on-site therapists, meditation sessions, and digital mental health platforms. Another key market driver that we're seeing as to why well-being matters is that there's a rising demand for personalized wellness programs. And I think this is the opportunity that we're seeing for Blackhawk County. Employees today do expect more than a generic gym membership for supporting their wellness goals. They do want to see wellness benefits that match their lifestyle, their health needs, and their preferences. They also are pushing for more personalization as it's becoming a major growth driver in this wellness space. A tailored approach not only can boost employee satisfaction, but it also leads to better health outcomes and lower absenteeism, which is why people like myself in this field and human resources are investing heavily in data-driven wellness solutions or kind of considering wellness as a core responsibility and strategic initiative rather than just stopping at our benefits that we have strong benefits. The third market driver that we're seeing is employer cost savings and productivity boost. So again, back to this, absenteeist productivity. One of the biggest reasons that we're seeing organizations invest in wellness programs, specifically wellness incentive programs, is because it does make some financial sense. A healthier workforce leads to fewer sick days, lower health costs, and increased productivity. These cost and efficiency gains can make wellness initiatives less of a perk and more of a strategic business tool. One of the things that the board identified through our strategic planning process is one of our KRAs, the key result areas, is wellness. So it felt appropriate to kind of bring this to you to demonstrate what we're doing that's current and existing and operational, and where we have opportunities to make this more strategic for our workforce. Before I get into this current program, I just want to talk a little bit about emerging trends, and this was kind of what I was speaking to with regards to Wellbeats from Wellmark. Other things that are driving this interest is the integration of digital wellness platforms. So much like you just approved the Wellbeats platform, technology is really reshaping how wellness programs are delivered for organizations. They're making them far more accessible and engaging through digital platforms. There's apps, online portals that are allowing employees to track their physical activity or their well-being. Could be virtual appointments, could be a virtual fitness class, nutrition plan, or access to therapy. We are also, as employers, able to get real-time analytics to monitor that engagement and tweak our programs accordingly, making wellness initiatives more measurable and results-focused. Another emerging trend that we're seeing is increased focus on financial well-being, and I've been talking about this more. We've been offering more financial well-being resources through our EAP. We see that's a strong focus for our employees when it talks about salaries and benefits and their overall financial well-being. But financial stress is a major burden for employees, and it's increasingly being recognized as a key wellness concern. Personalized financial coaching, on-demand education resources are helping staff making more informed decisions. So that's just another emerging trend that we're starting to see, especially with the rise in inflation and challenges in the job market. The third emerging trend that we're seeing is wellness is a key part of employer branding. In today's job market, top talent isn't just looking for a salary. They're evaluating how an organization supports their health and lifestyle. So organizations that can offer a comprehensive wellness package, including mental health support, things like fitness, spiritual, financial, social, kind of well-being options, even things as far as flexible schedules, like we've implemented telework, or there's other options out there for that work-life balance. Those organizations that do that are being viewed as more progressive and people-centric. A recent study revealed that 89% of workers at organizations who support wellness initiatives are likelier to recommend that organization as a good workplace. So this trend is especially strong among the younger workforce, but it's having an impact on the entire workforce. Again, there's a prioritization that we're seeing on work-life balance and holistic well-being when individuals are making career decision choices. As a result, wellness programs are now central to attracting, engaging, and retaining top talent. So those are some of the things that why we're kind of bringing this to you today. Our current program, just to highlight this, we currently have a wellness offering. We now have WellBeats that you just approved, but we also have had, through our employee and family resources, a well-being and wellness contract where we're able to offer webinars. For example, earlier we had a little changes add up to big results, for example, where we had a nutrition come in and speak to employees that they could log on from their desk. We made a space available for people to come in person. So those are things that we have in place that are operational. We have a budget for it. There's also internal department committees. I want to highlight public health. They have a really strong culture over there for well-being. It's really integrated with their accreditation as well as their mission. And they've been able to really grow that. You see things from, they have different challenges or they have donations where you can earn prizes, you can earn awards. They bring, food trucks to their employees and their workforce. And that all that's coming from a employee-led internal committee. It's also funded entirely by that same committee. So there's some really great ideas that we're already seeing and that we're doing today that could possibly be broadened to the larger county and the larger workforce. And then of course, Wellmark WellBeats platform, that's just an example of another thing that we have with our well-being plan. Any questions on anything I've provided so far? Okay, we keep going. Okay, so when we are evaluating the well-being program, we want to think about goals, and we've had conversations in a small team. Just want to highlight a couple of people that have helped bring this together. Alicia Allen, health educator from Public Health, Gabby DeWitt, marketing coordinator, Sanel Karajik, LPN of Public Health, Natalie Nunez, GIS coordinator of IT, Megan Olmstead, executive admin aide from Public Health, Rebecca Smith, disease prevention specialist of Public Health, and Angie Sapi, payroll specialist of the auditor's office, has been working closely with HR. We met as of recently last week and kind of helped formulate some of these goals and the things that you're going to see throughout the rest of the presentation. But a typical goal you would expect, it would be promoting physical, mental, and emotional health. It could also be financial, spiritual, or social well-being. It's going to encourage balanced lifestyles. It's going to create this culture of recognition and support. But the big one here is that it would provide meaningful incentives for active participation. The last thing we want to do is bring something and spend a lot of time on creating a benefit plan or a program that no one's going to use. And that brings us to why we're here talking to you about it today, is how do we get that feedback from our workforce to understand what is meaningful to them in terms of wellness activities and rewards. So incentive strategies, these are just kind of examples of what we've seen, how others, such as I believe when I've been in counties, Woodbury, Story, Potawatomi, Lynn County are a handful of ones that currently have a wellness incentive program that's based on things like points. They have a point-based system for participation. There are certain reward milestones, so if you achieve 500 points, you may earn cash incentive of $150. Or it could be something like paid time off. And there's a wide range of structures, but the nice thing about those is that they are personalized to that organization and to the workforce's needs. There's things like team-based competitions, or even, connecting our existing resources like our EAP, like things within our healthcare and insurance plan, or preventative screenings to connect those to an incentive strategy. It could be anything also like attending some of our stress management workshops or other workshops centered on well-being. It could be logging healthy lunches if you purchase an app and demonstrate that you are tracking your diet, tracking your calorie intake, or it could even be like a team volunteering event. We're starting to see, there's a growing interest in participating in parades or community different programs, initiatives, with the help of our marketing coordinator and the board, that those are all things that could kind of build into this incentive plan. And ideally help meet everyone's unique wellness goals. What would be the expected benefits? Can't guarantee it, but I would, based on the studies and based on experience from other employers, both private and public, where they could be improved employee health outcomes. Again, going back to that 61% of employees that were surveyed, that they made a healthier lifestyle choice because of an employer-sponsored wellness plan. Higher job satisfaction, reduced healthcare costs. I just want to make a note on that shouldn't be the only expected goal, and it may, that is kind of a moving target. While healthcare costs are a concern, certainly for like us being self-insured, it's not, I don't want it to be mistaken that this is going to completely reduce healthcare costs, right? Somebody who gets a diagnosis of MS or cancer, well-being activities, but something like that is going to be a significant claim, and no amount of wellness is going to probably overcome a diagnosis like that. And then again, a strong sense of connection, teamwork, and support of professional, personal, and organizational well-being. If people feel good at work, we want them to feel good at home. We want there to be that connection to where they can utilize this outside of their professional role that have an impact on the work that they do. Okay, last slide. Where to start? So this was just an opportunity to bring this to you. I just wanted to share it with all of you. We've had some initial groundwork done with the help of our finance director, Michelle Wiedner, Sam Jameson, assistant real estate tax manager, the HR team, Karen Showalter of the auditors, our county auditor, Karen Showalter, as well as Jen Todd, our payroll and accounting manager, and our obviously Wellmark being the TPA for our health insurance plan, and our benefit consultants to bring this here. One of the recommendations was that we should probably talk to our staff, which makes sense, right? We should solicit feedback, and that's what the other group that I mentioned is preparing to do after this kind of discussion. Ultimately, we want to understand, what are the meaningful rewards and well-being activities that would matter to our employees, and we want to benchmark other organizations as to their success and their experience. I sent you a couple case studies. For example, Lynn County works with Navigate Health Solutions, CFU and Des Moines, I believe Des Moines Schools works with Wellmark. They have a few other case studies out there. But we'd like to draft a request for proposal, because while this is an awesome idea, it's not something that HR can do and manage on our own. And it's when we benchmark these things, they are having a service provider like Wellmark, like Navigate Health Solutions, or other vendor come in and actually help develop that, personalize it to the organization, monitor, develop, and track those programs, points, and then deliver that, for example, to payroll, to HR, to whoever it is that then to issue those types of rewards. So it is something that is kind of the heavier lift of this, and what is not operational in order to engage an incentive, a successful incentive program based on wellness, we would be recommending looking at a RFP. The funding of that would be presented, potentially this budget session. We want to be mindful of course, there's strategic priorities that we know that are taking perhaps that funding allocation, but I do think we have some flexibility with the health insurance fund. When I surveyed other counties and asked about how they fund these things for the actual program itself, as for paying for a contract to manage it, as well as the incentive rewards, whether that's like through payroll, a cash amount, or PTO. Well, that'd be a productive measure, but the funding sources came from the health insurance fund, supported by the supplemental levy. Some did it in their general fund, supported by the general levy, and Potawatomi actually does it in their gaming fund. So that's something that we'd want to explore with the board as to the feasibility, if we were to implement something, what that funding structure would look like. What I've learned in the most recent conference that Anna, Cherry, and I attended to in Des Moines, Lynn County's HR Director, Lisa Powell, presented alongside of their wellness provider from Navigate Health Solutions, that over their 19 years of experience, they started where they are today is not necessarily where they started 19 years ago. And I think it's important for us to, if we're going to move in this arena, to really structure it in a way that it is sustainable, so that it's not something that we're having to tweak every year or pull back on, but something that we may start a little smaller with a low-hanging fruit, can have a high impact but low resource, and build up to something, for example, I think Lynn County's is up to where you could earn over $1,000 each year by meeting their milestones or under their incentive program. They've also done a nice job of evaluating what their pillars of wellness look like, and so that you can do things in different levels, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, social, financial, and kind of establish that, and that's what I would be looking for our organization if there's an interest to continue exploring this option. The reward structures, for example, in the budgeting kind of timing of that, a reward may not come for 6 months or a year later, right? You'd be working up to something, and then that reward would come in possibly like fiscal year 28. So if we were to start something like this, which July 1 I think would be a little aggressive, and we got to kind of think about too, would it make sense? Do we want it calendar year or do we want it fiscal year? But anything that we would implement in fiscal year 27, a reward may not actually be, especially financial reward, may not actually be realized till fiscal year 28. And we just want to be mindful of the administrative lift on payroll, right? We don't want to be putting something that every payroll you could earn $5, because that would just be way too time consuming. But is it something that can happen maybe twice a year? Is it something that should happen annually? Could it involve PTO? Those are the things that we want to explore and solicit feedback to bring back to you. So that's all I've got.
Have the other counties that have implemented something similar, have they done it long enough that you'd have cost comparisons with like the manager, the vendor manager that would do that work, as well as how it's worked with them and their various incentives, or is it just fairly new and they haven't been able to do that?
Lynn County's done it for 19 years, and it's definitely evolved over those 19 years. So I think there's other cities that have had it maybe longer than a few. I'd have to check with like other counties and communities, but I would say that's probably one of the longer programs I've seen. 19 years ago, I think wellness across the globe, especially corporate strategy, has grown a lot in 19 years. So they were kind of a leader in that, I would say, especially with the public sector. But you can certainly kind of get an idea from those others that haven't implemented where they started, how long they've had it in place, and how they've evolved it. But that's one example.
For sure. Yeah. And the things that have worked well from the incentive standpoint too, for employees are nice to learn from somebody else's experience, but it doesn't mean it's same for us. But
like there's some things to consider. We've had conversations around, should this apply to employees on the health plan or all employees? And we kind of positioned this, it really should be for all employees, regardless if you're on our health plan, right? We just want to open it up to whether you're, I would say with seasonal staff, probably not. But if you're a permanent, part-time, permanent, full-time, regardless of your status of taking insurance with us, we want you to participate in this program. There's also things like, should others in the family, should spouses be added? And that's something that we're starting to see. There's based on the conference that we were at and some of the conversations, some communities have spouses, some do not. There's a lot of angles we can look at, and kind of, I think the big thing is finding out what our workforce values, and giving them some ideas too, because some may say, well, I don't know what's out there. And that's where, even with, if we did a survey, I'm hoping we have enough interest and engagement. If we get like no participation, I don't know that it's worth pursuing, but we're gonna really try to promote engaging with employees, and then whether that's through a survey and then potentially like focus groups, and hopefully time to bring this to you all in January.
I was wondering if that was maybe too aggressive for that kind of timeline you were talking about to have something.
Yeah, I think we have flexibility with the health insurance fund being a source for this. Again, having over $8 million available in that fund to do something like, what if I were to guess, like, let's say half, and again, participation's key. Not everybody's gonna participate in this, but let's say, I don't know what the cost is for a vendor, but it could range possibly anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 for them to like potentially, I don't know if that's completely true, but we have to find out. And then on top of that, it's really the incentives. So if you're gonna give a cash incentive, obviously there's a cost to that. If you had 50% of employees participate and get a $300 bonus, you know, those start to add up into some numbers of 60,000 or, but we don't wanna do something that's gonna cost, that's not feasible. To be mindful and financially responsible with the self-insurance fund. I think one thing we've always been known for and public sector is known for their benefits, right? We've got IPERS, we've got good health insurance, really affordable health insurance, but we're seeing there's a growing market and demand for this personalized wellness need, I guess, and one that employees are kind of, we've had feedback from employees, like, do you offer some kind of match or some kind of like, you know, reimbursement if I join a gym? We don't have anything like that right now. Another consideration with our public safety union and why we want to kind of get ahead of this now is I want to start dialogue with them about if there's an interest from the board in this, that's a mandatory topic that we, if anything to do with their kind of supplemental income. And while wages are not open for everyone until about a year from now, we'll be discussing that. Certainly we could entertain having an MOU or something, you know, to, but ideally we have participation from public safety, even in this data intake process.
So first step in this is drafting or issuing the RFP for the contract to develop and track these.
Yeah, that would be a step we'd probably like to get, I'd like to get input first and kind of give, I mean, I think then the RFP can certainly start, we can start drafting that, because they're gonna probably, from what I can, you know, tell, you know, they'll be looking for the information we're gathering as well, like what matters, what are your goals, what are your employees', you know, preferences and lifestyles and health needs. But yeah, it would be.
Is that the action you need from us to move forward, I guess?
To support this kind of what next steps that
With the assessment, I think,
you know, can I get, I guess, you know I can ask, I think within our role, we've done surveys, things like that, it's more of kind of an FYI and that yes, if I, you know, we feel like this is moving in the right direction and we draft an RFP, and that would come before the board for approval. I don't have the funding right now necessarily to have it start any sooner than fiscal year 27, so it would be kind of incorporated in our budget request for fiscal year 27. So, you know, we do have, I think, some time to solicit bids and kind of get a feel for possibly have, you know, vendors come in and do a presentation and see if they're the right fit for what our employees are telling us.
And I was gonna say, so have you done a staff assessment? Has there been some type of a staff assessment that's went to all staff or just?
We did do one with our first intern. She did a wellness survey back then, so that would kind of tie into this. But it was more of a broader, it wasn't on like wellness incentives. So this is gonna be very much on incentives. So what is meaningful to you as activities and what rewards are meaningful to you. And so this is kind of zeroes in on that incentive piece of
because to me, that's a critical piece of how broad this gets, or whether it's worth the cost or evaluating that type of thing too. If we can even do it.
Yeah, I agree, I just don't want us to, if we don't have interest of the board to move down this road, I don't want us to open up the conversation with staff and then come back and say, well, we're really planning to do it anyways, right, so.
Oh, I don't mean that, I just meant there's certain information I think is, like say, this is great for the overall presentation, I appreciate that, but yeah, I'll just say.
I think it's exciting and I wanna see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
I think it is, as you pointed out, just to maintain our position even as a competitive employer, like this is the kind of stuff we've gotta be.
That's where the value of the staff, I think the staff really value it to me.
And benchmarking too, like I said, I don't know that I would assume some can put a dollar sign to an incentive, right? I mean, you're doing something for, to improve your financial situation possibly. And certainly if there's a perk like, well, if I reach this goal, and that means and that could come in the form of, we've talked about reducing your health insurance premiums. I've seen, Anna was telling me that there's an organization in the city that it takes off the out-of-pocket like the deductible. It could be PTO, because not everybody, you know, is driven by a financial reason either. It's like, I just want to be away from work, more. And some of that could be, we've talked about with new hires, again, they don't start out with the max of 5 weeks vacation. They may start out with 1-2 weeks and the casual, about 2 weeks, depending on when you're hired. But, you know, that could be a way of incentivizing where they could realize those more easily. We do have right now incentives for like absenteeism. We changed that in the last contract for the unions where if you don't call in sick, it's either 3 or 4 months, you earn a day. Now, if you call in sick, well, you got the time off, right? But it's one of those things that we encourage people that, hey, if you have that appointment, you could use casual time or you could use vacation. You can kind of make a choice, right? But sometimes you get sick. That's just the way it is. So this could also be, we kind of have some things already set up to where I think this could complement that from a wellness. We've also seen safety incentive programs. I haven't touched on that much, but I've seen ones where safety is also, and that could potentially be a lever that we pull here, because obviously a safe workplace is something that we want to strive for and recognize people that are doing safe practices. So it's really kind of how we want to position it, and it will, I believe, evolve. Like, I don't think we'll do one thing and it'll just be done. I think we'll measure it, we'll see its success, and we may tweak it. But I really would, I'd like this to be something that, you know, you all are involved with, engaged with, and certainly whether it's a focus group, the survey, whether it's part of the planning piece, if we move forward with an RFP, I think the more that the board can be, if you guys have the desire to move forward, then we can kind of continue to do that together, so.
Yeah, I have quite the appetite for it. And I can just speak from my employer. I mean, we've got similar initiatives going on, and it arguably saved the lives of a couple guys just recently going through preventative screenings and things like that. So I don't know, I think it's a definite necessary first step in the right direction.
Yep, I mean, that's, you know, and with the healthcare costs, I mean, Lynn County talked about their experience. You might see healthcare costs go up because people are just going to the doctor more. And, you know, right now, I think we have a level of where there's employees that utilize the healthcare insurance and those that are like, well, yeah, I don't go to the doctor. I've been to the doctor for 10 years, you know. And we want people to go and to have those screenings and to, or if it's not screenings, it may be that, well, if you're tracking your well-being somewhere else, someplace else, maybe it's walking, maybe it's, again, there's a number of components that could matter to someone that we'd like to recognize and reward, and because they are a direct impact on our self-insurance fund, and I think it's just an opportunity to step it up from we have good health insurance to like we're really invested in your well-being.
I know I've talked to you about a few wellness ideas. If we've got ideas we want included in the survey, to just reach out to you.
Yeah, and you know, and certainly complete the survey. We're kind of trying to put some things that are kind of what I would say your typical well-being, and then have where like an other where people could say, hey, this wasn't listed, but I think this would be an excellent idea, or have you thought about this? And then again, we can hold, if there's enough interest and participation from the survey, you know, a focus group, because that dialogue can help gather a lot of great information that a survey sometimes can miss. So absolutely, that would be a great place to, you can email me if there is something, or you can certainly complete it on the survey. There'll be a kind of other thing for other ideas. But, you know, I met with my the action planning team yesterday for the first time for professional development and training and culture of accountability. We were looking at that whole organization and people, KRA, and recognition and rewards was a highly rated you know, goal, and one that's on our one-page strategic planning document, right, you know, behind or right aligned with accountability. So I think we've already seen some interest just from the strategic planning team that have recognized, and that's obviously come from staff that they work with every day. I've had people reach out, new employees, existing employees, long-term employees that have said, hey, have you thought about this? And I just think we're at the right time to explore it more. But there will be some, you know, Michelle and I have already talked, I've provided her some information how other counties kind of approach this. And that's one thing that we want to be mindful of. and start, start small. We don't have to lead the wellness strategies of the public sector in this area this year, next year. It would be something to work towards, and really, if it just fits our workforce's needs, so. All right. Any other questions or thoughts, or, I do think the data piece is, and I know that came up in the well-beats that Justin mentioned. So even beyond this, that benchmarking, and I do plan to still come back and make kind of a business case, and one that we can have a little bit more data behind what I've provided today. But I really appreciate the dialogue and the openness, and if there's anything else, please let me know.
Thanks, man. Item 10B, discussion of consolidated communication center.
And when I look at that, it seems like we should probably have funding on there, right? Does that mean, I mean, that's really basically what it was, the funding that was, I think, discussed a couple of weeks ago. I think we just put that on there last week. I know you were gone, but it was similar like to a budget item, said as long as there were meetings going on with the smaller group and reporting back, or if the group had something that they'd like us to take forward or do something about or whatever.
You all met last week, it was a group of 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think there were 6 of us. I think we were short one. Mayor Kapliska was ill or something, I think, so she didn't make it. And I said, yeah, we met for, I don't know, probably an hour and a half maybe, probably.
Largely compiled, the point was, I thought, to compile questions.
Some questions, we had some difficulty with that even, like I said, and what those questions were. So we had about 5 questions that we ended up with. Judy helped us out again with us sending that to the group. And then we said we wanted to take a look at them and then maybe kind of realign those or whatever. That kind of prompted the thought and the discussion. I was asking Rich too if he was going to comment or not. I said my takeaway from that was, for the most part, though there were kind of 2 schools of thought there while we were trying to combine questions or what the questions would be. Ours, I said, I looked a little bit more as to the supervisors were kind of approaching it by how could we work this through this, or what would be some of the questions we'd have as we did. TIF was discussed a lot, we had some concerns about that and how it worked, and I think we're still kind of working through that because there were some questions on that. Another question had come up in the group, and still thought it probably best to have the attorney reply or respond to it than us just provide information or get even staff in the middle of this. And it was putting it on the ballot. If the consolidated communications item could be put on the ballot, someone would ask, would that be legal, or could we do it if that was the case?
We pretty much know we got an answer, but we want
that we can't. But
their attorney to give us
to say that, okay.
some input on that.
And then I think as we saw the questions come through, then Mayor Loddick kind of refined his answers a little bit differently about who has the authority, to it. If the Emergency Management Commission were to say they wanted us to do that, do we have to do it? So those kinds of questions, because it was kind of vague, as you know, when we met 2 weeks ago, nobody was real sure what services we were talking about. So that seemed to be, I thought, and go from there. I was asking Rich if he'd had any conversations with the mayor or anything since then, because I think Danny's questions that he, changed somewhat. And to clarify, we hadn't heard anybody else's responses, so I didn't know if we need to follow up. I guess the mayor or somebody's going to pick those up and take those. Danny said he was very willing to help with that. 2 of the 2 mayors to ask their questions, but I didn't know if they were going to come up with other questions or what. So
we should clarify. There was 2 meetings. I want to thank Karen and Tim for last minute meeting with us after that meeting to help clarify some issues, especially with the TIF. So originally, what I was understanding, that areas in TIF, the county and the schools never got any of that money. It was all just sucked up by the city.
It's like a base rate.
Yeah, they set a base rate, but we do receive dollars in that area just at a lower rate because there's no growth in that. So that helped a lot with clarifying some of those concerns that were brought up at that first meeting. But a lot of questions, and it still comes down to the appetite. This will still come under the county's tax levy. So either way, shape or form, the county dollars will go up. It will show up. No matter where the dollars are coming from, it's still gonna show it's county dollars. So that being a concern in itself.
I think that is, it's the working through it if there is. One of the questions I asked very directly was the timeline on this, being during a budget cycle, just seems unrealistic. And we know some of the issues that came up 3 years ago, it's just to work it through it is not as easy as it sounds. But if there was an appetite for the cities to work at this long term, if that is something they really would like to. We've seen 5 or 6 other counties that have done it. They've all, Judy was very good to share with us at that meeting that when we talked about when Consolidated Communications first started in '95, she said that was a difficult process. It took about 2 to 3 years to work through that. She said there was some contentious things that went through, but she said even that initially took 2 to 3 years to expect this to happen, in a few months, probably not. But we know others that said, 7 or 8, well, they involved in putting up buildings and things. And we said, so let's just say 3 years. I said, if it takes us 2 to 3 years and we want to do this. Danny didn't really answer. He was kind of like, you'd have to get back to us probably. And Mayor Hart didn't respond at that time either. So it's like, we're a long way, I'd say, from at least knowing what's needed and then what timeline that's got to be and how willing we are to work on it, or if this is just, because we don't want to keep coming back through every 3 years if that's the case, but if it's just a answer that's resolved.
When we left the Consolidated Communications meeting, I was under the impression that, the questions being gathered that would ultimately, I think you actually talked a little bit about like a feasibility study, asked Eilers if they would be open to something along those lines, right? And to get to your point of we can't just throw this thing together, like it's
none of us are experts and you want to do it right. Yeah, that's what I thought too. It requires some people really putting a lot of time in and not something necessarily we would, but yeah, that's why the feasibility study, I thought maybe Ehlers did that, and if not then somebody else probably did.
Well, I think it would be good for all of us to put dollars into a study that keeps it so that it doesn't just become October conversation ahead of the budget, right? Like that, the last few years it's sort of been that of, we're getting into our crunch on our budget, let's figure out how to.
So 2 things to that. It was brought up about the study that was done, that WIC study 5 years ago.
Delta Works.
Yeah. So that was kind of there, but that only focused on certain parts.
Yeah.
So, but also when I went back and was reading the minutes of the meetings past, there was kind of a continuing theme from meeting to meeting to meeting that, again, is still, I think the tripping point is getting everybody to want to do this long term. What is the best interest of the taxpayers long term? Because I think we have some that want it now because of House File 718.
Yep.
But it's a lot bigger. The critter of this thing is a lot bigger than just making a decision that I was talking about. It's gonna have to take some long-term thinking on this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the contention is when do we actually start the process versus having the conversation, having it for a couple of months, and then tabling the conversation for 8 months and come back again in September, October, November.
Or a couple of years later. Yeah.
And if we have that information, it would be helpful no matter what, but I think it resolves it for everyone to know what's involved, and that was part of it, like what is this legal entity that would allow us to do this, if that's the case? Because they could come to us, obviously EMC could do the county levy now. I think that's maybe where the confusion came in. It was a little bit that, okay, now they can do a county levy. Well, that's okay, great, that's $250,000 in that EMC budget that's not what the group was concerned about. It was that $4 million plus the consolidated, and to put consolidated under EMA or EMC, whichever you want to call it, and then say they're going to be responsible for that $4 million. I'm not sure we would want to do that yet. I'm not sure, I mean, that's really kind of our decision, that one of those first ones that would have to be made, that we decide somebody else can do it better than us, or should be doing it instead of us. And if that's the case, I know Danny said, you want a business case, sounds like, or something, and I was like, well, Similar, yeah. You haven't presented the reason of why we should change it, because now we're talking about the property valuations, and we did that 3 years ago, to be fair to all the property owners. And so why should the taxpayers, as Rich mentioned, it's gonna cost more to do it differently.
And I'm pretty sure, by us going off of property valuation, that also includes TIF properties. No, it is not.
No, not for operations and
It's an
things like that.
operating levy.
Yeah, see, the operations, it's,
Yeah, TIF only, money that's collected on the increment, right? Not on the base, just the increment, but, and the city has to request it, or whoever, we just don't have any, that's why I'm saying city. But
in our calculation of their portion, we're not looking at what's in their TIF.
here,
you can't, legally we can't.
Tim.
You can only do that for debt service levies.
Yes.
So only if you're bonding for capital items can you
buildings or equipment
access that.
otherwise operational.
I just wanna make sure, are you talking about the calculation we use right now to apportion the costs out to all the cities?
Yep.
And the county share?
Yep.
We do not include TIF in that. The first year that came up at the budget hearing. And the sheet that was presented to us, not sure, I think came from one of the cities. They divided by property values using just the taxable value, not debt service, which again, this excludes the TIF. I did raise a question during that meeting, sure we wanna use this and not this, we also don't include city ag. So the first year that it was done, that we divided split the bills based on the value, it was based on what was presented to the board that day, which was the taxable value that excludes TIF. So we're dividing it just based on that. So the TIF valuation is not included in that calculation of splitting it out to the cities. But to Michelle's point earlier, and just to make it clear, by law, TIF gets its cut of every tax dollar collected in the increment. Period, except for debt service, school instructional support levy, and school PEPAL levies. We can't, on our own, decide that the EMA levy is gonna be excluded from TIF. That's, the law is very specific to those three things, debt service levies, instructional support, PEPAL. So it would take a law change in order to be able to use, stop the TIFs from getting the EMA portion, supplemental levy.
It just keeps getting muddier.
I think it's at least helpful that we're getting closer to being on the same page of asking the right questions. I mean, 2 weeks ago was frankly just not helpful.
No, we were
Because
still looking at
It was
ambulances.
being presented as we're required to do something when it didn't have anything to do with it, so it's kind of disingenuous, honestly.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, no, I think that's what we thought, the mayors maybe have the questions that they need to be asking their attorney a little bit differently than what we're talking about, of kind of working through something versus looking if they could force it. I think that's really what they were hoping, that they could force us now with this EMC levy to do it then.
Linda,
So that's the question, yeah.
you'd mentioned 5, 6-ish counties have done it. Do you guys know how many are doing it now still?
They still are, I think for the most part they are, yes, I was gonna say there was, but they have gone through a whole different, like I said, they're like, they call themselves like an authority, they're kind of separate, so it's not the county, and then they establish different 2080s and different arrangements for different pieces of it, policy or law, or, it's got a lot of things that they took years to work on, and obviously with the mayors and this county.
I would have thought of been more counties than there is that have done something like this. It just amazes me they haven't. So.
Out of 99? I wonder,
Yeah.
the question begs, why not?
Well, there's several counties that are so small where they rely on the state. So that's a big part of it right there. But the other urban counties that are, there was one that's not. They're broke up like we used to be, between the cities, and the county had their own, and that little city has theirs. And I don't know how, when you dial 911, figures out where you're at to who gets the call. But somehow they got it figured out.
well, that's the other important thing that we shouldn't lose sight of, that it's a good thing that we have this. That in 95 they consolidated together, and I think that gets lost in this conversation a lot when people are huffing and puffing and threatening to leave, and not helpful.
Well, and we've had both cities, both Waterloo and Cedar Falls have threatened to leave at times and both looked at it and didn't because it's not feasible. And that's why the consolidated worked so well when everybody came together in '95. And like I said, I don't know if any of you have, but I've never had any complaints about the services. I mean, really what we're providing to residents and the things that are working, that it's all seeming to be working well. I mean, I know from a law enforcement side or fire department, that would probably all be worked out with Consolidated Center, the board, those folks, not so much, but we would hear about it because this group is responsible for the governance of it.
But the big questions that, I guess at least that I walked away, the questions that were answered after that first meeting, I believe were, do we have to? No. Can we get the control back once if it, you know what I mean, if it gets completely out of control, can we reassert control? No. And then, is there actually a cap to that? No. So, and that was my worry, is for anybody, fixed income, continuing escalating prices and everything else, and you another tax or an increased tax at somebody per $1,000 evaluation that somebody makes it hard for somebody to live. So,
and that was the other thing. If people did it, no, I was gonna say people thinking that it was gonna be cost effective or cheaper or your taxes would go down, and it never did in any of the other organizations that have started. So it's just to say it would isn't fair to the taxpayers. So you are gonna have increased costs for the most part.
I think that if it did come to that it was just a county levy on this, then I think the oversight would have to just completely come to us and I'd take the cities out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have somebody else voting, because if I was in a position to vote, of course I'd vote for I want the Cadillac deal of everything, because I'm not accountable for it, but.
So at that point, when does it just become the one?
Yeah.
When is it? Yeah. Well, that's why you don't have to, if we were doing something wrong or it wasn't working, I guess I'd look at it for the taxpayers as far as for us or for whoever, whatever the parts are we're doing with it. You look at that seriously, and if there's a problem, we should be fixing it. If not us, can we do better? And it seems like it's worked well and continued to work well. So that part of it seems to be a piece that we're not looking at. We're just looking at funding it differently and taking it off the city's levies to put on to the county. And it's like that's, to me, not the right reason to do it. So
That's that way.
that's difficult. Yeah.
Tax costs compared to making sure we have what we need for the people.
Plus service, like service,
yeah.
and we're providing a good service. And if it was something lacking.
I think it's one of the restraints that cities are facing because of state law and having to take on the Brown Museum District and the library districts, but just make that argument full-throated up front that that's what this is about, and make that argument of whether that is for the greater good of everybody. So, because I'm open to those arguments.
Yeah, oh no, that's, yeah, we were kind of, that's really what we said too, we just, haven't heard those arguments yet for what we can do.
Well, like the speed cameras, that was over $1 million to Waterloo lost. I don't know if Cedar Falls. I mean, you can keep adding all these things that they've been nailed, cut back to the point where.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but so are we.
Yeah.
I mean, they keep coming after us too, nobody said we're off bounds, so they just keep adding services they want us to do or things that they pull the dollars from us, and I just think too, it's like you never know what they're gonna, Judy had some costs that she's been, like the 50,000 or 60,000, she mentioned that now it wasn't gonna be there, well, that's gonna come from all of us again, to share in that line item, because the state decided they needed, at the last minute, they didn't have money for equipment they needed, so where were they gonna get it? Well, they're gonna get the money from us. So it's like, thank you.
I worry about, there's been so many changes just in the 10 years I've been here from the state legislature on property taxes and how we can levy, and they continue to say it's their top priority without talking about actual real solutions around maybe reducing healthcare costs or new revenue from marijuana legalization or something like that. That would be a real conversation. But instead, I worry about if it does come to just one agency funding it, and then we're faced with other massive changes and limitations even on the supplemental levy, then we're in a lot less resilient position than if all these agencies are collectively funding it right now. So it's.
Well, and you, as you touched on too, the oversight then becomes very different. If you've got a group, an EMC group that is mayors and one supervisor currently that are deciding what's needed or what should be budgeted for, whether it's the $4.5 million or the $250,000. And we have no say in it except for a vote among 9 people.
I think restructuring, if we're taking lion's share, we need to outline the share of the authority. All 5 of us having a vote, mayor of Waterloo, mayor of Sioux Falls, and the mayor of
and that's
the
what most of
community.
the
Like
others do.
that is a more balanced approach because the burden is on us as entities. I think the conversations I've had, that they've been open to that idea.
We'll see. I mean, that was, like I said, there was questions that I assume somebody's gonna take the lead and have to follow up with us then, all with the responses on it. And I think that since the mayors had opened the door with that, they contacted Ehlers. And then Danny said he was willing to help share with that with the mayor of Waterloo too, so if there were costs. They're bringing it to us, or requesting of us, so at this point, I didn't think us, it was up to us to throw in the kitty. It was kind of like, tell us why we should.
Yeah, and so for the future feasibility study, if there's to be another one done, I would assume that they would eat that cost, if it's their idea to bring this back to us.
Yeah, especially when we do a good job. I mean, when things are working well, I mean, it's not like anybody can propose that, so it's like, but, yeah. We'd have to vote on that, I guess, if that came up, or they wanna do the study, or that'd be great. But, yeah.
Item 11, any reports or info from the board?
Saved this, this evening, in regards to the Orange Township, the Orange School, former Orange School site, location where the city of Waterloo is looking at doing residential development out at. Received some feedback from residents out there. Evidently this is a pretty contentious issue, and so I told them I would go out and attend their meeting tonight at 6 p.m. just to kind of listen and hear their thoughts on things. Obviously, we don't have any control over that, but I think people just want to, there's interest in de-annexing from the city, so it might be an interesting conversation.
Oh, I was gonna say, what did they mention to you? I just thought as far as they're concerned, I mean, they have that nice beautiful school, and I'm sure like.
I've been hearing from folks too, I might join you out there tonight, like one of the things there's, just like the watershed management of it seems pretty poorly thought through, honestly. There's, I mean, a large retention pond, it sounds like they could make it larger, reduce the project by maybe 5 lots and alleviate the concerns, but they don't seem to wanna do that, and so they're, but again, it's outside of our jurisdiction, but I've been hearing from folks too, like it's.
Yeah, I knew it was an issue, but I wasn't sure if they'd mentioned what their specific ones were.
And there's a mostly empty development right down the road already, so it's.
The other thing was soil contamination possibilities they brought up, and the people have acquired documents, but as far as like when they took Orange School down, a report indicated that there might still be asbestos. I don't know, can't substantiate that, but in the ground. And so anyway, so that's one of their big concerns, that, and then somebody mentioned an oil tanker that was in the ground, an oil tank that cracked open at some point. Again, I don't know the facts, but anyway, that's where their concerns are coming from, and so they're just wanting the city to slow down.
And that's at school?
No, at the church. The church has the word Brethren in it, on probably the 6200 block at Kimball.
Yeah, it's right across 20.
Yeah. That's all I have.
A question on the community funding. I went through and did the scoring matrix, got my top 10. Do we want to put a dollar figure in some of these, or do we wait and see what we come out after we're all done?
Yeah, makes sense to send to staff to compile and average out.
I would think like that's where we provide them the numbers, they average out, and we come up with whatever that list is, and that might make a difference of how we even want to fund or how funding
have a
change.
framework for the discussion.
Yeah, I don't know what your
More
thoughts.
presentations on.
I'm new to this, I'm just kind
Well,
of,
this is all new,
This is all new.
we hadn't done this
Yeah.
before, so.
I mean, looking at the questions, it does skew, if it hadn't been that I knew some of these organizations, I probably would have scored a whole lot less. But knowing some of them, that helped a lot. But it's a shot in the dark. I mean, you're taking the questions and trying to weigh it from the limited information that we got with the requests. So this is my shot in the dark.
Well, and that's also why we like the presentations. I think some of us, I know it's where it's kind of a mixed families on that, but it's kind of an opportunity to do the one-on-one or faces or questions or whatever too. But if you had anything that maybe you don't like the way Justin scored his in the top 10 that he writes, or mine, or, so you have more information that may not be your top ones, but, yeah.
Well, that's just it. Once you put all of them together, they can be nowhere clear. It's all going to be changed.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, that's also sort of how you get to blind consensus.
I like it.
Right?
I mean, so
Yeah.
far, I mean, I know we haven't worked through it, we'll see, but I just thought, I like the process of having them all and everybody having a say and really kind of having your own probably priorities for reasons that you like, maybe some of the others stronger than others, whatever.
I like your thought on just averaging.
Yeah, I mean, at least to have a starting point of the conversation. You got 34. The idea of us trying to weigh out 34 applications for $100,000.
Yeah.
It took a little time to work through.
Yeah. And they're due tomorrow, right, Michelle? Or 12?
I think what Tavis actually said was around October 6th, if I
Yeah.
recall.
I thought so too.
Yes, we're not.
I should have said November.
If not, we heard it today, yeah.
Why put off today when I can put off tomorrow?
No, I've got started anyway.
All right. Anything else from the board? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Sorry.